Welcome to another episode of Resortera Wave. A couple of hours after El Tri lost 2-1 to Sweden and Girona to close out their preparation ahead of the Qatar World Cup that starts next Tuesday against Poland. Poland defeated Chile 1-0 in their last preparation game of a set piece play, I believe. I haven't seen the goal, but I think I read that on Twitter. Oscar, great having you. I mean, as always, a little bit your first quick impressions on today's result. What are your first thoughts of that 2-1 result?
No, yeah, thanks, Nayib. Always great having discussions with you. More than anything, I know the result was, not in our favor, and it's a negative vibe right now. You could just see that the timeline and the news right now. But I thought for me, other than that, it was a really great competitive piece of play for the Mexican national team. A great test. These are the type of matches I think we want instead of the quote unquote Modelo matches, because these are the type of games where you'll be able to grow, find your mistakes, where you can improve. But I thought it was a really competitive match overall, and we saw some good things and we saw some bad things today.
Yeah, so right away to kick it off, I mean, I think the first minutes of that match. Let me see. The first minutes of that match, Oscar. I mean, I do sense that. Ay, se me están metiendo aquí todos estos. There was El Tri did have some idea running. I mean, I think on the right flank with Antuna, and this is one of their first, approaches on goal. I think this is a big play in the game, in my opinion, because Antuna Chavez throws the ball all the way, lops the ball, great pass, and the defender, Swedish defender, tries to head it out, but doesn't get his header in that well. So Antuna goes through his back and runs away. No marker, all the time in the world. He sees the play, he sees the movement, he sees where Henry's moving, where where Charlie, I think, and the other one I forget who was the farthest up on the screen who was coming in. I think it might have been even Chavez, might have been Chavez. But here is where I think you brought it up in the last show, no, Oscar, that when Antuna has so many time to think, he loses a little bit of focus. No, do I pass back? There was a lot of second doubt in this play, and I think maybe just shoot, and see what happens. I think looking at it from here, if his head wasn't tilted so much, looking into the area, because I think it took like 2 seconds or something. If he
Yeah.
would have just settled down, settled the ball, and shoot, I think El Tri could have scored the first goal there.
hmm No, I agree. I definitely saw this match. To be honest, it's a 50-50 decision, I think, in this particular case. I mean, like, and then people, I think sometimes people, fans don't understand is real life game situations where you're in the moment, it goes a million miles per hour. So you just don't know. But I think overall, Tuna, especially in the first half, like I think I mentioned last week, when he's direct and goes with his gut like straight away, he makes really great decision and has a really great impact. But like you said, I think this one he could have done it like you said too. He could have probably converted it maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think and then to give it to Antuna, close to the end of the first half, he had that left-footed shot that a little bit down, the ball moves, and it would have hit the top corner, no, basically. So I think, but here, I think after the game, I tweeted something out about along the lines of the small details. No, I think Sweden had 2 shots on target, 2 goals. That is as precision as it gets. It doesn't get better than that. Um, and here you have this clear opportunity that, like I said, if he scores here, I think the game could have gone a little bit in favor of El Tri. The confidence of being up, just a little bit of calmness overall for the whole team. Because, the case in this game, they were down not once, but twice in the score. And that's a different type of a feeling of being down in adversity, basically.
No, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, I think you summed that up pretty quick. But just to touch up on Chavez, I thought he had a really good game individually, and
Yeah.
I liked his direct play sometimes. Like you said, he switched the ball there. He did that a bunch of times throughout the first half. In the second half, I think he overused it a little bit. But I think we talked about it off air a little bit. That's like second half, we kind of started to go down a little bit, and Sweden started to play a little bit more.
Yeah. And here, I mean, I'm looking. There's this play as well. I'm gonna share it on the screen. I think it's right there. So this is before the goal, the first goal that Sweden scores. Guardado has the ball here, and he tries to throw the ball all the way to the far right side where I think Chucky was, and the Swedish defender thinks faster than Guardado and blocks the pass. Do you think that Guardado here rushed it too much? That maybe he should have waited a little bit, maybe passed it back? Because that's another thing with El Tri. They abuse the back pass, and sometimes when they're supposed to do the back pass, they don't do the back pass, like in this play. Especially considering that over there on the
Yeah,
far right, the player has a better vision. No, he's like sort of the defender has the whole panorama.
yeah.
Or they don't
Like
speak, or do they speak? Do someone tell Guardado that the Swedish defender is coming, or the Swedish
yeah,
player is coming?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think at least for my preference, Naib, I like this type of stuff. I rather have this get forward, do something, risk it, and if all by means, I think, in my opinion, we could have done a little bit more even when he lost the ball. I don't think we tracked hard back enough, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But that's just my preference because, like I said, I especially growing up here with the Brazilians, they go forward every single time, and sometimes we definitely like that. I mean, how many times in CONCACAF we just pass the ball backwards, try to reset, and it's just the same thing. Just go forward and risk and see what happens. So
that's
I
true.
think
And
that's
here,
that's
and
pretty
here,
much just part of the game.
it's part of the game, and then I think that's where Chavez comes in because of the midfielders. Chavez was the one that was more confident with the ball and throwing it at different areas. You know, he was very comfort, comfortable on the
Comfortable.
ball. So I think from the midfielders, I gotta say that Chavez was the best. Like there was a clear difference between how Chavez was doing to the other ones. And to be honest, in the last game against Iraq, Chiquito Sanchez was right there with him. So I don't know, that se lo dejo the viewers, no? Like it just doesn't make sense that he was out either. The Sanchez, you need
I
them. You need
mean,
a man, especially when you see today's Charlie's game. Charlie was horrible today.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard now because it's not just our national team too. It happens to. I mean, just look at the list of all the other teams. I know for me, like I said, growing up here with the Brazilians aren't happy with Dani Alves put on the national team. But that's a different hierarchy, different scenario. But I think the same concept of like why certain players are in or not.
Yeah, let me see. So this is the goal, no? This is the goal. Now, I put the screenshot of Guardado when the ball was lost, and this is when the ball is already going into the area of El Tri. I said on Twitter that if Edson was in Herrera's position, I feel the interpretation of the play, Edson would have actually gone in front of the player and try to like destabilize him, not just shove him, because that's what Herrera does. He just puts the body on him. But I think if Edson was there, his interpretation would have been to go in front of the Swedish player. I don't know. I don't. I wanted to ask you that if that was possible, or maybe I'm just thinking too much.
No, that's without a doubt because I mean that's Edson's expertise. I mean his numbers are really in favor of the interceptions.
Yeah,
But let's say it doesn't go his way, right? I think right here, Naib, especially because like I said, I grew up playing this position. Gallardo already not in a good position. You have to be goal side, no matter even if you think it's going to who is this to Montes's player. You have to be goal side, and then this goes to Moreno as well. That he needs to communicate. You have to look over your shoulder and really read your space around
he
you.
looks so slow, Moreno, on that play too, right?
So you have to, like I said, I think to blame everything on Guardado and the midfield in this play, like in my opinion, I think they could have done collectively saved themselves a little bit already. In this case, I just think it was just a lack of conviction, but from the defense and a little bit just not on their toes. But I think all game now, I mean the transitions. Anytime the Swedish opposition had a transition, they look dangerous, and the national team struggled. I mean, I think even literally early on, like the first 5 minutes, they had a similar situation where Sweden almost scored as well.
Yeah. No, no. It's always good to hear a little bit what you have to say, Oscar. Especially like you said, you played the position, so you got a little bit of a view on what's going on here. Um, and let it be known. I mean, Herrera, it's an interesting case because with Martino, he considers him the best Mexican player, and that's what he's gone out to say publicly. The problem here is that the period of time, I think since August, he hasn't really played. I mean, and the Dynamo, the style that the Dynamo had was all over the place a little bit. I mean, they fired the coach at then. So it tells you a little bit of how unstable the situation was in the Dynamo. Um, I said during the game that his ball distribution wasn't so good. And
Look
then on
rusty.
top of that, his intensity wasn't so good. And then, but he shuts everyone up with the assist, which I think is very, very important to note. No, because it's a very, very difficult situation here. On the one hand, you can't eliminate the bad performance, or the bad performance in some areas of the field that he had as a lone central defensive midfielder. But you also have to highlight the assist and say that he's probably the only midfielder capable to do that pass, like you told me, Oscar. So
Yeah.
it's a tricky one with Hector.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in this case, yeah, like I said, I was mentioning it off here, just the technical proficiency of Herrera in general, I think that does spot on. There's probably not a, like I mentioned before, right now in this moment, I think Edson Alvarez is overall the best Mexican player in this position and in form. Pero, like, just straight up technical ability and quality, Hector Herrera is probably our best player. Like you said, no, I said that there's no other Mexican player that could do that. I mean, that's the if you guys watch the replay, like the backspin with his left foot
Yeah.
to like who else can do that, Nayib? That's just sheer
It's
quality that you don't find very often, especially in Mexico.
yeah, and here's the last one oh la la. So you feel ahí? There we go.
There you
It's
go.
back, right? So this is the last one I'm gonna share. Okay, it's 2-1. El Tri concedes a set piece play, another set piece goal that they concede in this proceso. I mean, it seems like they've already conceded a gazillion set piece goals with Martino. Um, One of the things that I noticed, especially after the goal, it was chaos. There wasn't really that much spark in the offense, no. So it was like lob it to Chucky, a ver qué pasa. And if you're gonna be doing that with Chucky, look where Chucky is getting the ball. The end of the play is he goes all the way in the flank, all the way to the end of it, and he tries his best. He puts all of his energy, but that's just wasting Chucky's ability. I think if El Tri's gonna do something in the World Cup, it can't be just lobbing the ball to Chucky and see what happens. No, because it won't work. It won't work. I think when you look at the goal that he scored against Germany 4 years ago, there was some play going there, connection with Chicharo. Chicharo gives the ball an open space to Chucky, and it's been very, very rare in this. I want to say the last 2 years where I see Chucky in that sort of play with El Tri. It's always just he's sort of you're just like drowning him on the right flank, you know, and that is very, very waste of. I don't know if it's tactical. I don't know if it's like what are they doing with this guy? Like, because to be honest, if you're getting the ball to Chucky in this area and expect him to run that whole, it can be any defender. Look, the defense was well positioned as well. But it's very hard to see Chucky doing something in the World Cup if he's gonna get a lot of opportunities of this sort.
Yeah, no, I agree in that aspect, Naib. The only thing I would add is one, Chucky Natata has been injured, probably more injured than actually available.
Yeah.
Two, the opponents where we can even try to do that, it won't allow you. The Gold Cup, CONCACAF. The only teams that have been where you are able to put Chucky in the sense and utilize him to the max is games like today, the friendly against Algeria, the Netherlands. What other friendly have we had that was actually high quality?
Wales, maybe no. I don't know if he played in the
Wales,
Wales one.
Colombia, which I don't think he played much. So in like 5 games in what 4 years really that you were able to test. So with that's hard to add. But yeah, that if you're gonna, I mean, it's hard. You're gonna make Chucky look bad more than anything in those type of situations. But two quick things I also want to add. I've noticed, especially with Tata's teams compared to Osorio more than anything,
Yeah,
we lost one how to defend in set pieces and how strong we were in set pieces. I think Osorio was very practical too, in the sense he wanted the biggest guys possible and and guys who were actually good in there on the field, even if that took away a little bit of quality. And then two, when facing adversity and being down, I feel like when Osorio was in charge, we were a lot better. If we were going to go down, we stuck to the game plan and we didn't put our heads down compared to the Tata era, which is the opposite, in my opinion.
and do you think that has to do because Martino's an antiquated coach? I mean, I think that's the word. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's you go from Osorio, who was so, and he was very criticized because of all his looks of the sport and the preparedness, and having a psychologist there, being very open about the set piece play and how Mexico historically has been vulnerable in the set piece play. So Osorio believed to address it as much as possible to avoid collapses like what happened today, because Martino goes out to the press and says we were better than Sweden, but the score says that you lost. So it's like you say that and it's a little bit antiquated message. I don't know. I mean, the preparedness, there has to be something about the preparedness level with Martino that dropped drastically compared to what Osorio brought to the table.
I
I think that's what it is. That's explanation for what you just said. I mean, what other way can be? I mean, of course, the players get older. Guardado's older. Herrera's older. Moreno's definitely older. It's pretty clear, no? Uh, the youth. There's only one U23 player in this list, so it's it's like it's there's players in their prime. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of players in their prime, but it's still it can be a lot of factors.
mm, I mean, I think you're right in the sense they're two completely different coaches in how they approach the game, especially the Mexican game.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, because you showed
but
me that stat. You showed me that stat. The statistics.
yeah, 33
Um,
percent of the goals have been set pieces.
yeah, I'll share it right now
Martino,
on the screen.
Martino,
So el 31% de los goles, 31% of the goals that Mexico has
a third.
conceded with Martino. So it's 1 out of 3 goals. So I mean, that gives you the idea, no? It's I mean, it is because like you said. I mean, one can be optimistic and say, okay, everything will change. There's gonna be an unpredictability sort of sense of that things can change dramatically, and the players are gonna be sharp and whatnot. But there's a lot of patterns, like the set piece one, like lobbing the ball to the right flank to Chucky. Um, Raul's 45 minutes today weren't that good, to be honest. I mean, it was the guy's barely recuperating from an injury. Um, I don't think he scored an open play goal in the last 2 years for El Tri. They're all been penalty kicks, right? So those are bad patterns. I mean, as much as we want to say that el milagro va a ocurrir, it's a tough one.
It's tough now. You're putting me in a spot here, pero I'll say this: 2010, we had Guille Franco starting,
Yeah,
and I have no idea what he offered to the
he
national
didn't offer
team
anything. I mean, he just
compared to Raul. At least Raul fits into what that Martino wants, and there's quality there, in my
yeah,
opinion. He just needs to get fit,
but
which
I
I
don't know
think,
if there's
in my
enough
opinion,
time.
he should be in the list for me. But if that means sacrificing the only player that's like actually in form, like sacrifice an Angulo, who I don't know why you're gonna.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I get that, but sacrifice a defender, sacrifice a goalkeeper. Why do we need 3 goalkeepers?
I mean,
Um,
Iran is taking 4 goalkeepers, bro. I checked that today. I was like, what is going on? Um,
but sacrifice players you know who aren't realistically gonna have like
yeah, I
even
mean, I think
Linus.
and
I
the
don't
last
like.
in the last show that we recorded here on Resortera Wave, I said Chiquito instead of Charlie, and today the game proved it.
Yeah,
Um, the another one that I said,
I,
well,
let me look
today
at
it
the
was
list
funny.
real
It was
quick.
funny that he didn't use Alvarado today, for example. Now that I think about it, it's like, why didn't he use Alvarado today? Oh, because Chucky played, because Vega played the whole game.
Oh,
It
that
would have
too,
been
Nayib. I think Vega was also a very big positive for me. If I
yeah,
had to pick a forward today, it's Chucky and Vega for me up top.
there's those two.
hmm Oh, but that's if I play 5-3-3 though. My bad. I'm thinking by myself for myself. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's Vega, Chucky, and I guess Funes Mori because who else was
Yeah,
healthy?
I mean, right now that's what I said. Also, I mean, if you're gonna play with the 4-3-3, the starter is Funes Mori on the striker position. Now, who knows? Maybe Vega goes in there because there's no. You go Vega, Chucky, Alvarado, for example, because Alvarado and Vega are are playing in the same team at the moment, so it's kind of makes sense that. But it's still up in the air. Um, ¿Qué otra cosa I was gonna say? I mean, you set the Vega part, 180 minutes of play. I think the 3-4-3 was one of the standouts. They played way better. Antuna looked way better in that formation than today. And not get me wrong, I mean today he had options with the 4-3-3. But I don't know that, like what you said, I think that was an excellent point last week. That is just, if you give that guy more time to think, he's just not gonna he overthinks it too much.
Yeah,
If he just goes direct, open space, pass the ball to the center, you have someone like Funes Mori in there. I just feel like today, I feel like Antuna had more confidence on Funes Mori than Henry Martin, because it was kind of the similar play that the first goal. It's like, why didn't he go to Henry Martin in that play? He went on today's play. So it's things. There's some players that all of a sudden feel better the chemistry with certain players. No, it might seem crazy, but that's the case. I think a lot of the times, because at the end, football is about social ties, social. You gotta communicate with these people. If you don't communicate off the field, do not expect for things to be better on the field. No, and especially game stuff going on. No, and I think that's one of the things with the set pieces is the communication is dismal. It doesn't matter who the defenders there are. It's just really, really bad.
yeah, Nayib. I mean, you mentioned last week that Talavera could possibly start, and just giving the deficiencies of what Ochoa offers. I mean,
Deficiencies
I
in the
think
aerial game.
not just that, Nayib. In my opinion, I mean, this is where
Okay.
there's a lot of discourse, but I'll say this before I start hating, before it sounds like I'm on the negative train.
Yeah.
Guillermo Ochoa is a good to decent keeper, really good shot stopper, but I don't think he commands his box very well. His foot distribution is passable at best, I think, in my opinion. But so is the other keepers. So
Yeah, that's the
he's
thing.
that gets canceled out. Um, just the way he commands his box in general, I don't think he's not very. I mean, just look at the top world class keepers; they're just intimidating. You have that they're just big guys and intimidating, and they command their box, more than anything. And Ochoa does lack that. And I think too, he's not good in penalties either, which you never know we're gonna need it to. We need that little extra push factor because shot stopping ability, all the three keepers, Naive, how far distant is Ochoa from Talavera, Cota, or even Chuy Corona, Acevedo? It's not a lot, by a lot.
Yeah.
Take your Americanista hat off for a little bit because this is what it is, and I get it because I do the same thing with Santi and Chuy and all these guys, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mentioned before that Santi I think should be at the World Cup, but given the thinking of what Tata said, and I'll say it again, Santi didn't play a single World Cup qualifier, or he was even on the bench. He didn't even play the Gold Cup, Naib, the
Yeah.
Nations League either. So that just shows maybe Santi wasn't ready or something's lacking. I mean, you mentioned
He
you
is
watch
the
his
most
game.
informed striker
He
of
is.
Mexican football right now, though.
He is without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked
But the
about this
thing, but the thing
before.
with Ochoa, though, it's a very, very difficult one because what you said, take off the America head. But there's been amazing games from Ochoa, the individual performances where it does make the difference. I mean, I think the 0-0 against Brazil in 2014. There was a game in 2007 against Brazil when Neri Castillo scored that nice goal. Ochoa also had an amazing performance there. Um, but like you said, I mean, is he intimidating in the box or commanding in the box like an Allison or Unai Simon, for example, or Lloris? Because
And
Lloris
that's
and
yeah,
Ochoa,
and that's my issue. We treat him like that
because yeah,
undeniable starter. I mean, the same thing we kind of do with Herrera in a sense, how I was putting it. Pero Herrera has quality in his position, in his area and focus more than Ochoa does in his position. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's hard to explain it without sounding like a hater or like a true hater, especially since being a Cruz Azul fan and having Cruz Azul stuff in the
yeah,
background. Pero take your America needs to head off. Ochoa is at best a decent to a good goalkeeper. He's not the keeper that we think we have. I mean, you bring out games, Nayib, certain games, right? What I like to look at is what has he done as a career in general, and seasons in general. I commend him to going to Europe and taking less wages and doing what he did and being the first Mexican keeper. But it didn't go well for him, and the numbers are there. He's the most goleada goalkeeper in history over there too. So that's something
yeah,
to
yeah,
point
in
out
certain
too.
clubs.
If he was so good, right? I think, especially because he has his French passport now, right? I think he has a French passport. You don't
Yeah,
think
or
a
the
mid
Spanish or the French, one of those passports. Huh?
you don't think a mid table team in France, the Premier League, La Liga would have taken him as a starter
Yeah,
at
yeah,
some
yeah.
point? That's the reality. I'm not
No, but
saying
then
this to
also
hate
you
on
have to
him either.
look. You also have to look. What team in Europe is going to give him the money that America is giving him now?
Exactly too.
And the
That's a
same,
whole nother.
Araujo's in the same basket. Nestor Araujo. I mean, was it correct for him to leave Celta? Maybe he could have stayed another year over there and gotten better. Um, so it's a lot of things also there to
Yeah,
consider.
yeah. So
Herrera
yeah,
is like
definitely.
he accepts the Dynamo offer because it's probably not gonna come again. It's like you got that moment and you got to say yes or no. Shoot, $7 million a year, close to Mexico. Why not? So it's so many different things,
A lot
different
of factors
factors.
too. That I'll say that definitely too. But
And
that's
and
just
and
my thing on that
and no,
aspect.
and it's good that you bring it up because you have to look at it from different perspectives. I mean, you can't just like say, no, Ochoa. There's reasons why Ochoa didn't play for Marseille or didn't play for a Villarreal, for example, or Real Sociedad, a little bit higher than Granada
Or even
or
just
Malaga.
below that. I mean, teams just literally at the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
I'm
and
trying to.
and that's the thing. But it's this sort of the thing of, como te digo, well, at least he tried to do something
Exactly,
different.
exactly.
And this is the
And I
thing
condemn him
also,
for that.
and this is the thing right now with the youngsters in Mexican football, and I wrote it on my blog last night. Is like the fact that Linus and Santi are not in this list makes it look like, okay, if I stay in Mexico, win a lot of money, and
Exactly.
play it safe, I can still be in the national team, without a problem. Is it good or is it bad? I don't know, because at the same time, it's not like having more Europeans having more European based players has propelled Mexico to the next level, because it hasn't. We've been on the round of 16 forever. So it's like we can't really, does it affect, does it, um and that's the confusion right now, no, with a lot of young players. It's like, man, Linus went to Europe and look, he's not going to the World Cup. Santi went to Europe and he's not going to the World Cup. So it's
Yeah.
it's sort of like, I'm not telling you to award it, like, oh, that's a ticket. You go to Europe, you got a ticket for national. I don't, not like that. But you also have to, you have to have a balanced team, not too old. It's the second oldest team in the World Cup, this one. After, before, Iran is the first, and then it's Mexico. Only one U23 player, Kevin Alvarez, who's about to turn 24 soon. So it is like, what is the dynamic here? What is your long term vision? What are you know what I mean? That's been the problem with Mexico many years. It's always based on who the manager is at the moment, and the manager right now is Martino. You know, and that's it. And Martino won't be here in a month maybe. So it's you can't do that anymore. I mean, if you really want to make history, that has to change big time. You know, the way that you treat the project, which is, I think,
Yeah,
Sweden. Without them, I think that's great that we played against Sweden today, because Sweden is not your France or your Germany, but this is a
yeah,
team that knows what they're playing. They got a mixture of youngsters and veterans. Some playing at Manchester United like Lindelof and Elanga. Those are top caliber players. There's no Mexican player playing at Manchester at a team of that level, no. So it's a lot of things to look at. I mean, it's baño de realidad. We'll see what happens in the World Cup. I mean, maybe a miracle happens, no?
yeah. No, I think, like I said, let's wait till the games up. Let's wait till the first game at least, and then we can
And
judge
then
it.
we make
Because
more definitive conclusions.
yeah, because like I said, I mean, let's give a little bit people some hope. The last time we lost a friendly to a European, we went before the World Cup. We went to beat Germany, a world champion.
I think they lost against Denmark, right?
I thought it was Croatia. No, might have been Denmark.
Con Osorio. I think they lost against Denmark and over there in Denmark, I believe.
Was that the last game before the World Cup then?
Maybe
I thought
maybe
it
it
was the
was
Croatia game.
Croatia in the States.
Yeah.
I think they had some friendlies in Europe before the World Cup. I remember a Denmark game, and I think they did lose that one.
All right then, pero still it still stands
Yeah,
with
it
it.
still
You know what I
stands. It
mean?
still stands.
Pero like, let's see what happens. Like I said, I think a lot of things are questionable. That's very much so, and everyone has the right to their
Everything's up in
opinion.
the air. Everything's
Yeah,
up in the air right now. Will Guti play? Will Lorbelin play? Will
based on
Edson play?
Chavez, like I said before, I think Chavez is ahead of Guti for me, and today was a clear statement why.
Yeah, Chavez starts. Vega starts. Chucky starts. Those are three starters there.
Ochoa,
The
Edson.
goalkeeper, I don't know, eh? Told you. The goalkeeper, I don't know. There might be a surprise in the goalkeeper. Maybe
I mean, just
I'm
based on that stat, now why wouldn't you start Talavera, right? Just
might give it a
you're
shot.
bad in the set piece.
Funes Mori will start, I think, against Poland, because he's gonna be good at the set piece play. You need someone like him that is good in the air. Um, but we'll find out. We'll be reading all your predictions on Twitter and stuff. Thank you for watching the show. I think we've gotten a good average of viewers. We'll try to be doing more of these as the World Cup. Maybe more than 3 games, and hopefully more than 3 games. Chinga, we can do.
That's the idea. Let's hope.
That's the
Let's hope
idea. Let's
something
hope
could.
more than 3 games. But I know it hasn't looked so well in the last hours. Of course, after a loss, it's hard to think positive in a way and whatnot. Finding the bright spots and trying to make more emphasis on the bright spots than the dark spots. But there was a lot of you know había más malo que bueno. To be honest, and that's the thing. That's the thing. I can't really gotta be honest, but we'll see. Thanks, Oscar,
Fortunately,
for joining me. And I hope everyone has a good week. And then we'll see you next week after the Poland game.
take care, guys. Thanks.